Jimmy Lai, you failed the bar exam on your first attempt, and now just 4 years later, you're running a 7-figure law firm. I want to get into how you built the business and the stories with that, but first tell me, why did you even go into law in the first place?
Well, that's a great intro to start off at failing the bar exam. Yes, I definitely did. So what got me into law was we'll have to go back to when I was 5 years old.
Okay.
Growing up, my mom was an entrepreneur. She started her own language school / kindergarten. So it's basically a private school in Taiwan. And as you know, private schools, the parents are usually doctors, lawyers, business owners, and such, people with influence. And my mom was more of a no-nonsense type of person. Either you follow her education policy or here's your tuition money back and you can send your kid elsewhere. And she did that quite often. She wouldn't,
Wow.
she'd rather stick with her policies and principles than making money. So that's kind of the person she was, and she is still. And when she did that, the parents would be hurt, and they would go up to my mom and say, "We're going to sue you. We're going to go to the media. We're going to go talk to this politician to put pressure on you to accept our kid again." So as a 5-year-old, seeing all that, I grew up. I told my mom, when I grow up, I want to be a lawyer to protect you. So that's where it first started. Was I want to be a lawyer, and then in between, 5 years old to college, I looked at the cost and time of going to law school. It will be 4 years of undergrad, 2 years of law school, and I told myself, what if I failed the bar exam? Then it will all go to waste. Like if I spent 7 years of school just to fail, which ultimately I did. Kind of fail. We'll go into that later. So I gave that up during middle school, high school. I kind of gave up on the thought of going to law school. Was the cost and the risk. Like what if I fail? And just not believe in myself. Then during college, I ended up majoring in marketing.
And you're no longer in Taiwan at this point, right? For college?
No, yeah, college I was in Oklahoma. So I went to college in Oklahoma. Throughout high school, actually, and sorry for all the jumping around. Hopefully the edits
you're
will
good.
work out.
I'll do my best to keep it together.
So my elementary, middle school years were actually spent in South Dakota. My mom did her doctorate degree at the University of South Dakota, and then I stayed in South Dakota for 5 years from age of 10 to 15. So until freshman year of high school, I was in South Dakota. Then, because being away from Taiwan, my Chinese wasn't good enough to go back into their K through 12 system. So I ended up being a high school exchange student. My sophomore year, I spent in Japan. My junior year in Germany, and my senior year, I did my A-levels in England. And so that's kind of, where I did my education. My sister did the same thing. She did her sophomore year was in Quebec, her junior year was in France, and her senior year was in Norman, Oklahoma. And that's how we ended up in Oklahoma. That was because her host family really liked her and told her, you and your brother can come to OU and we'll take care of you. You can stay at our house. We don't have to pay rent. However, we looked at the tuition of OU at the time, and there was another local university called the University of Central Oklahoma, and we compared tuition and ended up being, my parents could send us, two for the price of one. So we ended up going to a smaller school about an hour away. We rented our own apartment to stay at. And, people listening might be asking, how come, how you and your sister enroll in the same university at the same time? And the answer to that is because as a Taiwanese citizen, there's mandatory military service. So at the age of 18, when I went back to Taiwan, I had to go through that process, to go through the medical exam to make sure I was fit for serving in the military. Ultimately, I didn't have to serve, and it wasn't. And it is an interesting story. Well, not interesting story, but it's an interesting fact of why I couldn't serve. I was born flat-footed, so my feet was flat. However, when they tested my feet, they said, "Sorry, it wasn't flat enough." So there's like a certain degree. So sorry, you're not flat enough with your feet. However, you are fat enough. So not flat, but I was fat enough to not serve in the military. So on the passport, they put a stamp saying, I'm forever exempted from military service. And
Wow.
without that stamp, Taiwanese males, they can't leave the country without that exemption.
Mm.
So unless you have, be enrolled in university. So it took about a year to 2 years to sort that out. And during that time, I was working for my mom school while my sister finished her high school. And then we ended up, she's 2 years younger than me. So we ended up enrolling in the same time in the same university.
Yeah. Well, I think that's kind of funny because we have the same problem in the U.S. Where most 18-year-old men are not eligible to serve in the military because they're overweight, or whether it's their anxiety or something else that's holding them back, that a lot of our population is unfit for military service. And I think it's kind of interesting and probably a separate conversation. But I do think that's kind of funny. That's one of the ways that you were able to still get to university and study. So tell me, you're at college now, and you previously said, I didn't think that I'd be able to succeed in law because of the cost and the difficulty. What if I fail? So now that you're at college at this point, did you intend to go into the law now, or what was your perspective on what you were looking for out of school?
No, I still didn't. And I chose marketing because I was fascinated with marketing, fascinated with selling, fascinated with how to generate more revenue. That's always been a key thing. Growing up, watching my mom run her own private school, it's always been a constant challenge. She doesn't do marketing. She doesn't do advertising. It's all word of mouth. So I've just been, wanted to learn how to do marketing. So, maybe help my parents out with their business. That was kind of initially why I chose marketing. However, as an international student, when you graduate with a marketing degree in the U.S., your competition is quite fierce. And also, there's not a lot of job that would sponsor a marketing degree. It's mostly STEM. So that was the kind of like, if I wanted to get a sponsorship, that was one of the hurdle was I graduated with a marketing degree, and it wasn't really particularly useful for my career purposes if I want to stay in the U.S. But as an international, there's a program called the OPT, which is like a 1-year optional training where when you graduate from the university, you get 1 year of work authorization to work anywhere you want in the U.S. to get additional training and experiences related to your field of study. So as a marketing degree major, most of the jobs out there were insurance sales, real estate, financial service advisor, or car sales. And I really quickly eliminated the real estate, insurance, and financial services because I knew I only had 1 year of time. There's not enough time for me to build a client base or build a referral base and build a book of business. And so car sales was pretty much the only option for me at that point, with only 1 year of time based on my work authorization. And that I didn't have to do my own marketing. Dealerships did the marketing, and I just needed to sell. So that's basically what I chose, and what sold me on, selling cars was when I went to a career fair, and one of the person there asked me what my goal was coming out of college, and I said, I would like to make 6 figures. Naively thinking that I could make 6 figures right away, straight out of college. And he said, well, car sales, you could do that in car sales. I was like, okay, interesting. So I met with the general manager and went to the interview, and the general manager showed me his first year's pay, and it was $75,000. And he said, that was my first year. And every year after that, I always make 6 figures. And I was like, okay, sold. I'm going to work here.
Cool. Let's do it.
Yeah. Yeah. But then, my parents weren't that enthusiastic when I told them that I'm going to go sell cars, because they said, like, you have a college degree. You don't need a degree to sell cars at all. You don't even need a high school degree. If you know how to sell, you don't really need a degree at all. Which I responded saying, I chose that because, and if you kind of read my LinkedIn, you don't know this too much about me, is that I'm more of an introvert. And so I decided that I needed to challenge myself to kind of put myself out there and be more extroverted and learn how to sell, because I realized that all things in life is pretty much sales. When you're interviewing, you're selling yourself. When I'm on this podcast talking to you, I'm selling myself. When I'm applying to law schools, applying to different schools, I'm selling myself. So I figured that sales would be an important function. And it wasn't until maybe like the first week of working at the dealership when I realized, maybe I should go to law school. I did have a great time selling cars. I sold quite a bit of cars, and I actually got Salesman of the Month once. And I asked them if I excel at this position, would there be a work visa sponsorship opportunity? And they said no. So I realized, salespeople are replaceable, and you know that maybe I need to get a law degree and make myself less replaceable. Um,
Hmm.
so that's how I ended up going to law school, and I didn't prepare to go to law school until I was selling cars. So my LSAT scores weren't ideal either.
So low LSAT scores. You really didn't study a typical undergrad path to law school that other people might hear about. Uh, Tell me more about this. I feel like there's a little bit more to the story here. Where like I was selling cars, I realized I'm not going to be able to get the sponsorship. Well, I guess I could go back to let's try law again. Was there something else or someone else that was still pushing you to say, hey, you thought about law before, but because you were afraid to pursue it for fear of failure, you're going to do it anyway now. Was there some other pressure to go into law specifically?
I guess it was a combination of, you know, not being able to get a work visa sponsorship, and with my marketing degree, quite limited in what I can do in the U.S.
Hmm.
and trying to figure out my options, and then came back to, so oh yeah, like when I was growing up, I want to be a lawyer. It was either
Yeah.
a lawyer or a writer. Those two I was quite
Mm.
interested in, and I was like, yeah, why not? Why not go to law school now? Just give it a go and try.
Yeah.
And so I just decided to move forward with it. And I think a lot of my mentality sometimes, and with all these business decisions, it all started with asking myself, why not? And these two
Mm.
words are quite critical sometimes. It's like, why not me? Or why not go to law school? Why not? So I'll ask myself this question, and most of the time, after answering myself, I would have the courage to then go ahead and proceed. Because every decision I made throughout life, and even till now, it's always been scary. Like hiring our first staff, you
Yeah.
know, hiring this vendors, committing to spending this much in marketing. It's always scary every single time. So I always, ask myself, why not?
Hmm. So with that attitude of why not, and wanting to kind of instill the courage in yourself, did you do well in school? You became a perfect straight A student immediately, or how did school go?
No, so I would say throughout, when I was, it's interesting. So when people ask me this, I kind of go back to when I was in Taiwan. So K through 12, I think for the rest of the world and most in Asia, they're quite rigorous compared to the US K through 12.
Hmm.
So I left Taiwan when I was in the fourth grade, and I was actually at the bottom of my class. So like my map was towards the bottom of the class. I wasn't a straight A student, through fourth grade. And then when I landed in South Dakota, all of a sudden my map was towards the top of the class. So like, and then I guess like maybe I'm more acclimated to the U.S. system, so I was able to prosper under the Taiwan, Asian K-12 system. It's a lot of memorization. You have to keep
Hmm.
memorizing, and then regurgitate what you learn. It's
Yeah.
mostly that. And so in the U.S., it's more, analysis and more critical thinking and more, more creativity. So I was able to prosper and under that kind of education system. So from fourth grade all the way to my freshman year of high school, I was pretty much straight A. And
Hmm.
then, obviously going to different countries, great. We didn't really maintain grades. I was mostly there to like kind of learn the language and the culture, especially
Yeah.
even though I grew up speaking Japanese to my mom. The Japanese, native Japanese was quite different as well. And, back to Asia, their K-12 is way more advanced. So I really couldn't follow along. And then when I was in Germany, I was struggling, couldn't speak the language at
Right.
least for the first 3 months. My best friend in Germany was the television. Every time I'd get off school and I'll just watch German TV to learn German.
Hmm.
And then in England is when I, got my grades back up a little bit, do my A levels. And in England, they have, their A levels kind of like our high school, but it's a
Hmm.
2-year program. So A levels for 2 years, but I did all that in 1 year. And so I had to like condense everything, do that all in 1 year. So wasn't exactly straight A there, but at least it was good enough for me to apply to the university here in Oklahoma. And then I would say I ended up at a 3.7 GPA for undergrad.
Wow.
So
Yeah,
so I
I
would say
still
like
say that's pretty great.
yeah, close to, A's, a lot of A's. But law school was a totally different experience. I
Yeah.
talked about being more extroverted in the car sales business, and which I did. I became more extroverted. I became more confident in myself. But right when I got into law school, it turned me back into an introvert again. Like the environment of law school, everyone was like super competitive. Many were type A personalities, and
Hmm.
just didn't feel friendly. Like people weren't really that friendly, and if they were friendly,
Mm,
it came up as like fake friendly. Like they're friendly to you, but they're all at the same time competing with you to be like the
right.
top of the class rank. And I was there just trying to survive, just trying to make sure I get through law school and hopefully find a job that would sponsor me. That was just my mentality of going through law school. I wasn't really big on getting on, the law reviews, the competition teams. So sorry for that long-winded
No,
answer.
no, no. That's excellent. I think especially leading into the climate of law school here in the U.S. particularly. You said it wasn't, and maybe was just your school. I don't know if it's the whole law school experience for everyone. But you said people weren't particularly friendly because of the competitive environment. So did you meet your partner in law school, your business partner? Because your firm now is Lai and Turner, right? So I assume you met them during school, or how did that happen?
Yeah, so Braden Turner, he's our law firm partner, and we met. We were in the same section. So
Mm,
even though I said no, law school wasn't particularly friendly, I ended up making, I would say about like this many friends, like just with one hand. Like
yeah.
that's the amount of friends I made through 3 years of law school, and Braden Turner was one of them. And we were in the same section, so in law school, they put you in different sections, and pretty much the first year you're in that section taking all the classes together. And so we
Hmm.
became, you know, I would say pretty close friends throughout law school. We would help each other, with studying, with outlines, and he was pretty much, I would say, yeah, like the only friend that I was really close to. And yeah, sorry, I lost my train of thought.
No, no, you're good. So you met, was it Braden Turner?
Yes.
So you met him pretty early on in law school then?
Yeah, I met him pretty early on in law school, and it's true what people say, like the networking is important. It's who you know, and I've been fortunate to know him, and we kind of came together after school. After we finished the law school, he went to Louisiana to be an attorney there, and I actually added my MBA degree because of COVID, and so that's another whole another story there. But I'm glad I met him, and we were able to agreed to start a law firm together, and basically through a text message. It wasn't even a phone call. It was just like text saying, he said like he wants to come back to Oklahoma or something. I was like, oh, I'm about to graduate. I don't know. I'm facing difficulties finding a law firm or a company willing to hire me or even interview me. So I think I
Hmm.
may need to start my own law firm. And I just texted him, hey, do you want to start a law firm together? And he's like, sure. So it's
He said, sure,
pretty
let's do it.
simple. Yeah. So and I still have that text. It was just like, okay, yeah.
You
It was just
screenshot it and frame it.
yeah, it was just through a text message.
Yeah. How early on did you know that he was the kind of person you might want to start a business with? Is that something that kind of developed over time, or did you understand pretty quickly, like I would go to war with this guy? I would definitely want to build something with him.
Well, I never thought about starting my own law firm until I was about to graduate the MBA degree and having, facing lots of rejections. And so I just been exploring the idea of starting my own. I never had, I never really wanted to start my own law firm or my own business. I
Hmm.
wanted to just be able to clock in and clock out and go on with my day. Like
Yeah.
as a business owner, it's pretty much 24/7 in the early days. And sometimes, here and there you're required to work, put in a lot of hours because it's your own business. And so I never really thought about that. And what led me to, considering him was that I think this is just perfect timing and situation. He was wanting to be back in Oklahoma, and we've been friends already. So we figured, why not? even though I think the conventional wisdom is don't go into business with your friends.
Yeah.
But we had an understanding of, you know, why I needed to start my business, why I needed to start my firm, and he was going to be more geared towards the legal side of things. I was doing mostly immigration, and that I'm grateful that he placed a lot of trust in me, because if both of us are aggressive or type A personalities, um, we might not work out because we might have our differences of opinions of how to run this law firm. So
Hmm.
I've been fortunate that he's kind of trusted me in running this business. So I handle a lot of the business side. Of course, I'll kind of communicate with him, talk through some things, but ultimately, I've been fortunate to be able to make the decisions, and he trusts me with those decisions, and we've been able to grow beyond my wildest dream because of that.
Yeah. And I think the benefit of a partnership is one of the benefits, of course, is that we have weaknesses. We've got gaps that, like, hey, that's a skill I don't have, or that's some knowledge that I don't have that somebody else can bring to the table. What gaps did Braden bring, or what gaps did Braden fill for you that you were missing?
Well, first of all, first it was more of a practical gap, in the sense that I'm from Taiwan, I'm a foreigner, and technically, I couldn't run my own business yet until I get my visa approved. So I had to
Okay.
go back to Taiwan in December. We started the law firm together in October. So the practical matter was, him as a co-founder, he could actually start operating the business as a U.S. citizen. He can just start operating and
Right.
running the business. I'm more of just from the investor standpoint and signing contracts. But he was like more a boots on the ground operating. So at
Hmm.
first it was more of a practical standpoint where he was able to start operating before I can go and get my visa. Once I get my visa approved, then I can come back in and operate under my law firm. So at first it was more practical. I also say that he's definitely smarter than me and sharper with the legal mind. I think I'm quite sharp with legal, but he's above me in that sense, and um, you know really admire him to be able to kind of complement my skills. I think more of my skills are lie more on the business side of things, and he's more
Hmm.
of the practice of law. So I'm more in the business of law, and he's more in the practice of law. So we kind of complement each other, where he can focus more on the practice of law. I focus more on the business of law. At the same time, kind of in between, I do some immigration law work, but
Hmm.
mostly him being Oklahoman with his ties to Oklahoma. He also was able to service some local clients with regards to family, criminal defense, estate planning. And
Hmm.
with my immigration law, it's federal practice. So my clients come all over the US and globally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think that's awesome to have somebody who complements and also augments your skills, right? You said, like, hey, I'm pretty sharp with the law, but Braden, like, he's really really good at what he does, and I think that's awesome to have somebody where, I mean, you're aware that, like, hey, I'm good, but he's really good. Are you familiar with the Dunning Kruger effect? Have you heard of that?
I've heard of yeah, yeah.
As somebody is looking at starting a new thing, they're very confident, overconfident,
Mhm.
and they reach this peak of Mount Stupid where they are so confident they think, I can be so good at this, and then they begin doing the thing and they realize, I am not good at this at all, and there's so many things I did not yet understand about this industry or this activity, whatever it is, and that would be the valley of despair. And then as they continue to work at something, this is where a lot of people will drop off. They will feel discouraged. They'll say, oh, I'm not good at this, there's so many things I didn't know, and then they'll quit. But if somebody continues to work at something, then they begin to get better at it. With reps, you get stronger, kind of deal. So there's this slope of enlightenment where they learn, they grow, they get better at the thing, and eventually we reach a plateau of stability or sustainability, where somebody is competent at the thing that they are doing. Yeah, with that in mind, how would you say? Did you experience any of that where you were maybe very confident about starting this law firm, and then not so confident once you realized what it really took to get this off the ground?
I think some version of it, because when we started the law firm, I didn't have a prior experience as an attorney. I
Hmm.
also didn't have a prior experience as a business owner. So it was more delusional thinking that I can make this work.
Yeah.
Like I don't think I had high confidence, but I was just delusional. It was like, and also out of despair, like I had to make it work because if I don't, um, then I got to pack up my bags and go back to Taiwan or elsewhere.
Yeah.
Because no jobs were offering me any jobs, and in order for me to stay was through this E2 visa where I invested into my own law firm to be able to operate and live in the U.S. And the visa is only good for 5 years at a time, and then renewable and so on and so forth. But basically, um, it was out of delusional thinking and despair that I started it. Then
Hmm.
maybe after the first few months, I was like, okay, yeah, I grew my confidence. I was like, okay, we survived the first few months. I'm confident we can do it. And then I think that's when we kind of hit a few dry spell. And the first 9 months, actually, and I publicly share this, we were either breaking even or losing money every month
Hmm.
for the first
Just
9 months.
another valley
So
of despair where you realize
yeah, so
another thing is limiting you.
so at that point, we were fortunate enough, um, just out of the blue, it's serendipity that in a local Facebook group, there was a senior executive retired sharing about his experience and looking for potentially an opportunity. So I reached out and said, given his experience, would he be willing to come in as a business manager to mentor us and to guide
Mm.
us? And so, we met at the ninth at so we started in October. So I would say, yeah, the ninth mark. The After 9 months, I think it'll be the 10th mark, the 10th month where we came across him and hired him on as our first full-time staff
Mm.
as a business manager. And at that time, I was full-time, and my partner Baden, he was still part-time only. So our first full-time hire was actually a business manager that kind of came in and guided us and mentored us on business, like how to run a business. But despite having the MBA degree and a law degree, I still needed to, I was at the bottom of that valley, and I needed to learn and gain the confidence, and which he was able to provide at that time, and we're kind of on the rise again. And I would say like that effect it's a roller coaster pretty much.
Hmm.
Every time we gain some confidence, we hit a roadblock, and then it goes down again. And now we know every phase we have our different challenges.
Yeah.
Like in the beginning, it was the challenge of like how do we scale up, and now we've scaled. How do we sustain the scale, like having a
Hmm.
balance effect, and um, how do we keep the culture we've fostered? The first 3 years of our business, and even now we haven't rolled it out yet, but we will soon. Um, no one had to clock in or clock out at our law firm, which is maybe unheard of for a law firm when you're billing by time.
Hmm.
With the attorneys, I can rely on them. I didn't have to have them clock in or clock out because they were compensated based on how much they work. So they would naturally, if they work more, they get compensated more. If they work
Hmm.
less, they make less. So I didn't have to worry about that. But with the support staff for the first 3 years of our business, we're pretty much relying on your honor and your word on saying, doing what you're gonna kind of completing the task at hand. We didn't have to micromanage you. So, but that was easier when the organization was smaller. Now
Right.
that we're up to 19 people, it's a little bit harder to manage productivity. And we're currently working through establishing KPIs so that we have KPIs and we don't have to micromanage. And I don't want to have to micromanage. I think that's the
Hmm.
worst form of leadership and management is to have to micromanage. And um, so like the first 3 years, we never had the clock in, clock out. My only rules were you have to show up on time. Don't never be late for client meetings, never be late for court, and never miss any deadlines. So those were my only rules. I was like, okay, as long as you follow that process, we never have to clock in or clock out. But obviously, as the organization grows, I think we're seeing a need that we need to start systematizing things, putting things into a process, putting things into SOP, and
Yeah.
that's part of our challenge right now. It's that we've grown really fast, and while we have some SOPs and process and procedures in place, I think we need to kind of revamp those. That's
Yeah.
that's our challenge right now.
Well, I think I'll need to connect you with somebody who I just interviewed, a girl in the UK whose whole deal is helping businesses build systems. She helps founders and CEOs all the time. And I just recorded with her last week. This episode with us is going to get released this week, and hers is going out next week. So you'll get to see that. You can tune in for that one. But I'll connect you guys on LinkedIn. I think she'd be a big help there. So hearing about these growth challenges, establishing KPIs, learning how to manage people. Tell me about that first hire. We kind of skipped over that part, or not skipped over it, but we kind of went through a little quickly. With that first hire, were you nervous? Were you scared to hire a full-time person? Like I've got an unpaid intern who's basically volunteering to edit clips and help out with the channel right now, and hopefully the channel grows and it monetizes and I can turn it into a full-time position. But that takes money. You were hiring.
That's
somebody.
one thing I'll challenge you is that don't say the word hopefully. I catch myself saying that quite a lot. Don't say hopefully, say it will. And that's one thing too that helped my business was stop saying hopefully. I've been catching myself saying that quite a lot sometimes, and I try to take the word hopefully out of it. I was like, it will. It will happen as long as we keep hitting the metrics and keep working at it. It will happen. And so, just a quick, a sidetrack.
No. I think that's great.
But to answer your question, it was definitely scary for me hiring our first full-time staff. At that point, I've shared 9 months of either breaking even or losing money, and we only had about maybe 3 months of operating budget left if nothing changes. Like that's about how much we had left in our bank account. And when we made that commitment to hire him, I was also upfront with him. I said, hey, we only have this much left. And the last thing I ever want to do is bring someone on board and 3 months later it says, sorry, I have to let you go. Yeah. So this is where we're operating under. He understood. And he understood kind of our situation, our circumstances, and he still came on board. And it was still scary for me at that time. In hindsight, the weekly rate we negotiated is actually quite low, but at the time for us, it was quite a lot.
Yeah, it was everything.
Rate. Yeah,
it may have been low in the market, but it was everything for you.
Yeah, it was everything for us, and I made that bet, and was okay. We're gonna go ahead and kind of be brave and take that risk. And it boils down to, I think, a lot of the business decisions and success in life, and it's the risk reward. The less risk you take, usually the rewards are less. And for us, paying him and hiring a full-time staff when we're still breaking even or losing money was an extremely big risk for us. And that big risk for us turned out to be a great reward because he was instrumental in helping me communicating to my partner and saying, I think he should be full-time. And, 2 months after him, my partner finally became full-time. And that's the month where we had our record-breaking month. It's our first month where we made $30,000, just like a month before our 1 year anniversary. And the story behind that, there's a quick story there. It's funny because we were coming up to our 1 year anniversary, and I just made an offhand remark saying, okay, if we're able to make $30,000 in September, we'll go and celebrate at this fancy French restaurant in October for our 1 year anniversary. And I believed that. I said, we're going to do it. And that really changed when we started having that mindset that we're going to do it. And that month, somehow, we ended the month at exactly around the dot, like $30,000 for September. And so we were able to kind of celebrate our 1 year anniversary. So just a quick story there on how mindset really can change things.
Yeah. I believe that too. I think that if you spend too much time on the internet, then you start to hear about manifesting, like, manifest the life that you want to live. And manifesting on its own doesn't do anything for you. It really is the actions that create value in your life, I think. However, when you do manifest something, when you say we are going to hit 30,000 by next September, and when we do, we'll go to this fancy French restaurant and I'm popping bottles and everything's on me, paying for everything for the team. When you say we will do this thing, it does reinforce the action. You're subconsciously telling yourself, like, I will get to this and I will do whatever is necessary in between here and this goal to make that happen.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
I
So
don't
when you
believe
have
that
that goal,
manifesting makes it happen.
right. Yeah. No, manifesting alone doesn't make it happen. But when you have that goal in mind and you say you will do it, then you start reverse engineering. Okay, if I want to make 30 grand, how am I going to do that in September? And what I did was, okay, we're going to reach 30 grand by the end of September. That's, we need to make 1 grand a day. And that's pretty tough for us. So how do we kind of be on pace for that? And at that time, we figured out our average case was about, $4,000 to $5,000 per case that we picked up. And so, okay, if it's $5,000, then we only need 6 cases in 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
And based on our conversion rate of, if we're converting only 15% of people we speak with, then that means I need to speak to X amount of people to be able to sign up 6 clients. And so that's kind of what we did. And now this pretty much the simple way of how we break things down is just by, okay, this is the goal. How do we reverse engineer it? And then break it down in simple steps. Like, how do we reach that point?
Yeah. So you just mentioned, like, oh, if I need to reverse engineer something, I need to talk to X amount of people, let's say 15 people. That turns into 6 clients, which is a pretty good close rate, in my opinion. Does LinkedIn play into that? Or when did you get serious about LinkedIn as a way of reaching people?
Sure. No, I didn't get into LinkedIn until last September. So today, coincidentally, today is our 3rd-year anniversary of our business.
Oh.
We started our law firm October 6, 2022. So today, coincidentally, is our 3rd-year anniversary. And
well,
I didn't get onto
congrats.
LinkedIn. Yeah, thank you. I didn't get on LinkedIn until last year. So the first 2 years, it was a slow progression. First is by telling anyone and everyone we know that we started a law firm, so that they start thinking, oh, yeah, Jimmy started a law firm. If we have legal issues, we can go to him.
Mm-hmm.
It started with that. And once we had some money to invest into marketing, we started working on, different ads. Try to put in a little bit on, for professional services. There's on Google you can do LSA ads. So we started doing that a little bit. We started with a $500 budget for the month and gotten some leads, convert into clients, get revenue coming in, and then scale the ads up. So I would say, going back, we started with word of mouth, letting everyone know.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have our physical office location. So we started asking for Google reviews. Even when people called us in the early days, I was Jimmy the receptionist, Jimmy the secretary, Jimmy the whatever, right? So I'll pick up the phone, and if they find out I was an attorney, I would, I was mindful not to be rude or anything, but I still try to point them in the right direction. If we're not able to service them, I'll still at least, look up Google and say that where are some resources I can send them or where I can direct them to better serve them. And I will always ask at the end, they will say, thank you so much. And I was like, okay, how did you hear about us? And they said, I found you on Google. I was like, great. Let me send you this link. It'll be helpful for me. I'm starting my own business now. It'll be helpful if you can leave a few words on your experience with us. And, usually a third of the people will do it. So that's how we pretty much got 60 Google reviews in the first 90 days of our business, was just by doing that. So once you have the Google reviews, we started popping up on searches, local SEO search when people search for lawyers. And that's kind of how we grew that. And every time we have revenue, then that's when we started making some calculated decisions on the investments to make, like where to put our resources behind. Should we put in LSA or SEO or PPC? We didn't really do SEO until the end of our first year of our business. But yeah, it was like LSA, then going to PPC ads, pay-per-click ads, then going to meta ads, and then starting to do SEO work. And how it led me to LinkedIn was, until last September, I was probably spending about 20,000, 30,000 a month on Google ads, meta ads, not just on ads, but also the agency spends, the different agencies I work with. And that's maybe my flaw, is that I'm afraid to put all eggs in one basket still. So I work with different agencies, and every time you work with different agency, they have their agency fees, right? So I work with one agency for a particular practice area ads on Google. I work with a different one for meta ads. So I ended up having quite a bit of different agencies working for me for different practice areas because I perceive them as they understand this market better. So let me work with them. And then
Mm-hmm.
maybe this other company, they understand this practice area better. So I'll work with them for this practice area. So it kind of hurt us a little bit, but I'm grateful I did because we were able to really optimize each practice area's ads and revenue stream.
Mm-hmm.
But that's pretty much by that point I was spending 20 to 30,000 a month, and I told myself, "What? Like, I wish there's a way for me to build things organically. What
Mm-hmm.
if I can do something organically that I don't need to spend ads on, and people will refer me clients and start, clients will work with me." And that's when I heard a presentation by another fellow attorney at one of a coaching conference sharing his LinkedIn strategy. He uses LinkedIn as a referral strategy, where he said, like, what if you just get one client a month from LinkedIn? Like, someone refers you one client a month, and if that client is worth $5,000 to you, that's 12 months in a year. That's 60,000 that you just added to your bottom line just by being on
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn. You don't have to spend on ads. Just post on LinkedIn. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay. So then that's when I started my journey. Was last September. I started just posting randomly, and from January to June, I did come across a ghostwriter. His name is Jacob Molina. He currently writes for about 50 attorneys on LinkedIn,
Mm-hmm.
and I worked with him from January to June, and he did help kind of kickstart my profile a little bit more. I was struggling to gain traction, and what he taught me was a lot of the storytelling aspect. Use
Mm-hmm.
storytelling, tying in storytelling to something of value and that people can resonate with. So I started doing that, and he did about 2 posts a week for me. And I would say around March, April was when I started getting more addicted to LinkedIn. And at that point, I started posting every day. So he would do
Mm-hmm.
2 posts a week and I'll do five. And I was like, oh, by June, I was posting two, 3 times a day.
Yeah.
And so it would be like 30 posts a week. And he was only doing 2 posts a week. And I was like, okay, maybe I'll just post myself. And I saw the value still in the ghostwriting. His writing is still much better than mine is. But I figured, I'll try it out on my own. And
Mm-hmm.
be, during that time, I was also, kind of learning from the LinkedIn experts like Yasmin Elledge, Laura Acosta, Justin Welsh, Chris Donnelly. So I enrolled in their programs to learn from them of
Mm.
how to, because I got addicted to LinkedIn. I really want to grow a personal brand. And
And
I
real quick, how much did you spend on all those courses or programs with some of those top LinkedIn voices?
a lot of money. I would say a lot of money, and it's recouped itself. Overall, I would say like being on LinkedIn has generated I would say 30 grand in revenue to us.
Mm.
So I would say like I've at least recouped my cost on spending on learning all these different programs.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say like yeah, so far I've at least recouped it, and I made a little bit more. And I'm now that sorry, I
No,
turned up.
I
So yeah,
interrupted you. So you took all these
no worries.
courses from
Yeah.
the top LinkedIn influencers, and then you learned about writing, and then here we are today.
Yeah. So, I got addicted to LinkedIn, and I started sharing my story and kind of building in public style format, and
Mm-hmm.
sharing my story, sharing why I'm trying to grow a personal brand, and I've inspired quite a lot of people asking me, "Oh, like, why are you doing this? How are you doing this?" And which led me to start my own community, which I on school, and I call it the unforgettable professionals, not professional,
Unprofessional
unforgettable.
forgettables.
No, they say I'm unforgettable professionals.
There it
So
is. Yeah.
yeah, originally it was more the intention was to kind of just have lawyers join,
Mm-hmm.
and then I met a friend. He's a financial advisor, and I was okay. So we'll do lawyers and financial advisors, and we're like, it's LinkedIn. We might as well just make it professional, so people can. We'll make it broad,
Yeah.
make it free in the beginning, so people can come and learn. Like, and my philosophy is like try not to gatekeep anything. Like what I've learned, what I pay for and learned, utilize and implemented myself, and what I can share with others to kind of grow their LinkedIn. And so we made that community free for the first 2 months. Now we kind of put um, a small gate fee to it, but the reasoning behind it is that when things are free, people are not as active sometimes. So
Hmm.
we made it where like you have a little bit of a accountability, like you pay to have access to the community, and the contents to learn LinkedIn, but also to hold you accountable to show up every day. It doesn't matter if you, like you said, we talked about earlier, you can manifest things and you can learn about things, but when you never take action, nothing will change.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like the goal of starting a community, and now we have about 400, almost 450 professionals in our school community.
Hmm. And I think you're crushing it in the volume game of LinkedIn. You posted 6 times yesterday, which seems to not be atypical. I think that's pretty normal for you to be posting that frequently. How much time would you say you're spending on LinkedIn?
Sure, like weekends probably a lot. Scrolling LinkedIn and YouTube Shorts are kind of like my pastime right now. My
Yeah.
hobby is just going to YouTube Shorts and coming across business content, scrolling LinkedIn, kind of learning what other people are doing with their business and careers. So that's
Hmm.
kind of my interest at this point. So on the weekends, definitely a lot. Content side, I would say probably anywhere from 1 to 3 hours a week. I batch write them, kind of think about ideas, think
Mm.
about what I want to share, and I'll batch write them. And I do use AI. So I come up with the ideas and I feed it to the AI, and kind of have it generate a post, and then I'll go in and edit. So I would say like 80% AI, 20% still edited by myself.
And with that, and I'm glad you brought up AI, but with that utilization of AI, where maybe 80% of the structure or content is still AI sourced, and then that last 20% is the Jimmy Lai of it, still making it you. You've still grown pretty quickly with your account. You're coming up on 10,000 followers, right?
Yeah, and I'm too hard on myself. I'm disappointed because that was my original goal, and I guess this is where manifestation didn't happen. A year ago, September, I said I want to reach 10,000 by next September, and I failed. So I'm hard on myself because other people they grow much faster too. Sometimes they're able to post content that people can really easily resonate with.
Hmm.
And I've seen someone grow from 3,000 all the way to 25,000 in a span of 6 months. So for me, it's
Hmm.
a slow growth process, but I'm glad it was kind of slow in a way that every every follower, every connection I'm making can have a little bit more deeper impact. Like the people that are
Yeah.
early on in this journey, I was able to connect with them, and this is my sixth podcast, being invited by you to be on this podcast. And before that, I'd never been on any podcast. Never had any thoughts about, you know, really sharing my story, my unique journey, my life on LinkedIn. And some people kind of see that as maybe they see it as weird, but I think um, being on LinkedIn has allowed me to showcase my kind of weird and show that even if you're weird, you can still be on LinkedIn and you can still
Hmm.
be unforgettable. That's kind of where my mentality is right now.
Well, I think that rate of growth isn't that slow. Yeah, well, I don't think it's slow at all. I think it's definitely like good to slightly better than good. There are people who grow a little bit faster, but I look at some of these accounts where they've got 15, 30,000 followers, but their posts get no engagement. They get like 6 likes and
Mm.
nobody cared. It's like you have all these people following you, but no one actually is interested in the content that you're putting out. Where that's not the case with yours. All, all of your all of your posts that I see anyway. Maybe I only see the good ones, but all of the posts that I see are still getting engagement. And so I think that I would rather have 1,000 people who are interested in what I have to say than 10,000 people who don't actually care what I have to say. And I think there's much more value in that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I am. A lot of people focus on the follower count. I do too, and mostly I think follower is a little bit more vanity metrics. What you really want to gauge is like the connections you made, whether
Yeah.
they translate to sales, to revenue, and what I see with my posts. What I like to gauge are people. Then LinkedIn just had a new feature roll up, which is save and sends. So now you can see how many
Mm.
people saved your post, how many people kind of send it to DM like their friends, like send it to them, and
Yeah.
then how many people. So those are the two new features I like to look at. Before that, I like to look at the repost, like how many reposts am I getting, and then the engagement rate. And typically, I think, um, like typically you see like a 1% engagement rate, and I've been hovering between 1 to 2%, and I'm trying to figure out how to get to the 3%. So every time I
Hmm.
post on LinkedIn, I'm always looking for that 1% improvement. what can I do today to get that extra 1%? And so I'm fortunate with these deeper connections I made that people, when they come across my post, they're willing to comment, they're willing to react to the post, and they're willing to repost.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's awesome to see. Like you're building a community on school, and you're also building this community on LinkedIn of people who are interested in what you have to say and your take on things. And I'm curious on what your take is. You brought up AI just a minute ago, and we are at the point where AI is taking over everything. So tell me where I'm wrong here. I am not an attorney. I did think about going to law school when I was in college. Didn't do it because I realized, lawyers have to read a lot. I'm like, I would get too bored and I'd get distracted. I cannot be a lawyer. So anyway, I'm not an attorney.
Definitely too much. Yeah, definitely a lot of reading.
Yeah, I don't think I'm cut out for it. I'm glad other people do it. But from my perspective, AI seems to be taking away some of these transactional things that attorneys used to do, and some still do, I'm sure. Like contract law is one that I mentioned right before we started recording. But how else is AI? And tell me if I'm wrong on that. But how is AI disrupting the law industry?
No, you're absolutely right. AI is disrupting the legal industry, and not just the legal industry, but all industries.
Yeah.
But I would say in the legal industry, you're right. Like repetitive transactional type works are being replaced by AI, where I won't say replace exactly, but it's being enhanced and maybe efficiency improved, where then you have less need for human work. Even with ourselves, like we have tools available to us where we can have the tool review the contract within minutes. But when we use that tool, so we actually review it ourselves first. We also have the tool run it, and we compare what the tool finds and what we are already identified, and we kind of merge them, and it made our process a little bit faster. So maybe in the past, reviewing a contract might take 2 hours, but with the help of AI, we're able to streamline it and make it 30 minutes. And so it actually benefits the consumer and the clients when they come to us. Is with the use of AI, it's not replacing us completely yet. Maybe one day it will, but for now, it's more of just we're collaborating and working together, because AI can still hallucinate things. AI can still make mistakes. So my approach to AI is always trust but verify. So you can trust it, but you still need to. So the 80-20 rule: 80% trusted, 20% verify, and make sure that they're doing things correctly.
And with the verification that you and your team are doing, what would you say the level of accuracy is with these tools today? Assuming it'll get better, but how is it today?
Right. It's been better and better lately. I feel like it's 90% accurate for the most part, because AI, if you correct it, I think it learns from its mistake, and it will keep improving itself. So I think recently, whenever we've been doing some kind of having AI run through the contracts we have, and it catches some of the things as well. Like it caught some things that were, I would say, like, for the most part, 90% accurate now.
And how do you think that AI will continue to change the law industry?
I think you pointed to, like, the one thing that we crave is the human to human connection. So I feel like with litigation, with navigating client work, that part, and then applying our legal knowledge to help our clients and counseling them, giving them advice, I feel this part is still integral to the legal profession. That I don't think people would quite trust AI yet with this function. However, I've seen AI tools like AI coaches, business coaches coming out, and people are starting to trust those tools. So maybe one day it will fully replace us. But for now, I think with such kind of important work that we have, especially like the attorney-client privilege, you don't really want the AI to know this. And what if you tell this AI and then it somehow gets hacked or leaked, your sensitive information or your privileged information that's only supposed to be between you and your attorney? I think those are some of the situations where I think we still have a role within the legal industry and the legal services to provide that counseling and the human-to-human connection, being able to go to court. I don't think AI can go to court yet. You still
Mm-hmm.
need a human to be in front of a judge and argue on your behalf. But yeah, so that's kind of my 2 cents right now with AI. And on the business side of things, I would say we use AI tools. Like right now, we have an AI agent that handles overflows whenever our human intake staff are not able to get to the phone fast enough, or if
Mm-hmm.
they're tied up on a different line, it routes to an AI. So we use AI, and we also
Mm.
have on our website we have a chat code. It's a company called Intaker that uses that chat, and they utilize AI as well to capture the lead. Also, it's able to communicate on our behalf to do some pre-qualification. So on the business side of things, I'm looking at various AI tools to help improve our efficiency, and that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah. Do you see yourself adding more of those AI tools, or do you feel like with our needs, these tools are currently meeting those, or do you still have some unmet needs, or like I wish we had an AI tool for this?
I think right now we've had our needs met for now, and as a business owner, like from my perspective, I'm always looking at ways to um, maintain our costs because the more people you have, the payroll cost can be quite
Right.
high,
Yeah.
obviously. And the other day, one of our biggest company in Oklahoma, it's Paycom, and I think last Friday they just laid off 500 more people, and they
Mm.
cite that AI has improved their efficiency and they don't need the human anymore. They don't need human
Yeah.
anymore for those tasks. So unfortunately, I think we're trending that way. And as a business owner myself, I'm also looking at ways like, what are some things that are repetitive that that can be done by an AI, just a set of parameters so the AI can just improve our efficiency, and then us humans can just work on things that the AI can't do, or we don't want AI to do. It's
Mm-hmm.
only human touch. So client management aspect, some sort of AI, but we still want human interaction. One of the main complaints that law firms and lawyers get, number one bar complaint is communication, and that's
Mm.
something that we're working on as well. And most firms are always kind of struggling with the communication aspect because us lawyers we charge by our time, right? So the attorney mentality is that we got to work on your case. Every moment we're talking to you, we're not working on your case. So that's their mentality.
Mm-hmm.
But as a business owner, my mentality is yes, I want attorneys to work on the case, but also be able to meet with clients, communicate with clients, let them know what's going on. Like
Mm-hmm.
I can see from the consumer and from the client perspective of not knowing what the progress is, like where the case is at, and maybe just a simple check-in from a human would make sense, or an AI. So that's something that I'm trying to figure out. Should we have more AI outreach and say, hey, your attorney said this is the progress right now. This is what's going on. If you have any questions, you can leave a message with me, and I'll give this to your attorney. And maybe this is something that AI can do instead of a
Yeah.
human. Yeah.
Is there a tool like that, or is that something you're considering? Like maybe let's spin up another company. We'll build this tool for attorneys.
Being on LinkedIn, I've been approached by a lot of DMs. So like being really active, people would DM me often about, hey, we have this AI voice agent that can do this. We have this AI tool. So I think there are tools available out there, and what I just described, I think can be done by a voice agent. An AI
Mm-hmm.
voice agent, it can be trained specific set of parameters for a certain task. So that maybe this AI would be a customer relations AI agent, where their task is just receiving an update from the attorney and turning that update to the client, and either by text, email, or calling the client and telling the client, and then having the client give us feedback and then giving it back to the attorney. So I think that is a possibility, but I think with my mentality, I would like some AI, but I also would still want human aspect
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd agree. I think I'm in the camp that we'll always crave human connection. Uh, Even if we would like the efficiency of AI, I think we'll still always crave human connection, and there will be a premium on that.
Yeah.
So, on the note of AI and human connection, you said you've got a team of 19 people now, right?
Yes.
Do
Yes.
you
I'm
do you see that
19 full
growing even
time.
more?
Um, So, like my challenges right now with the growing team is, people come and go. And so, we've had people leaving us, we've had to terminate some people. And then we're constantly kind of also, my mindset right now is a growth mindset. So we're trying to
Hmm.
grow. And so we need to sometimes balance that with like, do we need to hire in advance or are we at capacity? So we need to hire. And so right now the 19 people are, full-time, part-time, and some VAs as well.
Mm.
So we have VAs, virtual assistants in the Philippines and in South America and also in Africa. So we have VAs that can help with our support side and administrative tasks. um, so I think currently we're more of a attorney hiring freeze. So we're not bringing on any attorneys until 2026.
Mm.
But support staff, we're looking at like where we're at capacity or where we need more support staff, and we might have to bring on maybe one or two more before the end of the year.
Yeah. And has AI affected the rate of hiring for you? Have you been slower to hire because you already are outsourcing some of your work?
Not yet, because maybe because I haven't fully explored the full suite of AI tools available and what that can be done. But I think like I'm really quite interested in that voice agent being able
Hmm.
to handle phone calls. Like right now, we have a voice agent, an AI that handles the overflow, but it's only $99 a month. So I get what I pay for, and it's an AI, but it feels more like an answering service.
Hmm.
So it's like it's really limited, and it's not smart enough to be able to hold a conversation. It's based on prompts. Like so, if someone asks, "Can I speak with an attorney?" and then it'll say, "Okay, based on this, I'll be able to answer this." So it's more logic based on how it's trained. So only for $99 a month. But there's other voice agents that are maybe a couple $100 a month, up to a couple thousand, and
Hmm.
they're more fluid and they sound more human. They have some form of independent thinking to push you know, the inquiry forward or make sure it goes to the right place and do follow-ups.
Yeah.
So as I explore those options, and then I might not have to have as many intake people. And and the great things about AI is that they won't ask me for they won't ask me for breaks or for holidays. So that's the thing as a business owner is like, you know, um, AI will never ask for a break unless the system breaks down. But for the
Hmm.
most part, it's 24/7.
Yeah. It is one of the unfortunate truths of the universe that you typically get what you pay for. And, it's just one of those sad things. Like, oh, if I want the good version of it, I got to pay more. Well, I'm very curious. At this point, you've built up what I think many would consider a successful and growing law practice. It sounds like you've got a sharp partner, you've got a good team. Maybe you made some hiring decisions along the way that you ended up having to terminate people. It happens. Uh, so at this point, you've grown so much, you've learned so much. But Jimmy, at the start of college, was not going into law. If you could go back and speak to yourself that first year of college, what advice would you have for yourself, or what would you have said to yourself as you were getting started professionally?
Don't let the fear stop you from doing things. And I think I've made a post this morning about overcoming your fears and being brave. So that's what I would tell myself in the first year of undergrad would be, don't let the fear stop you and just go for it. And really kind of asking myself, like why not do this? When I went back to, when we talked about the two words that I really like is like why not? And so I would tell myself to overcome that fear. Don't be afraid. Uh, every decision will be scary. Like hiring our first full time was scary.
Hmm.
Hiring our first attorney was scary. Hiring support staff was scary. Hiring a paralegal was scary. Like every hire we get is like, how do we maintain this culture that we've created? And the culture at our law firm is kind of like as what we're trying to build is a supportive environment while being competitive. So that's kind of
Hmm.
like a unique culture we're trying to create is that we can be competitive, but we're also supportive of each other. At other law firms or other attorneys I spoke to, most of the time the environment they're at were just competitive and maybe not as helpful. It's like that's your problem, and so they're
Hmm.
not as supportive of each other. The firm that I'm trying to create is one that's supportive of each other. Our job is already highly stressed. It's already stressful enough. We don't need the internal stress. Like we get all these stress from the external factors, from the clients, from the client's emotions, from the case, from the ruling decision that didn't go our way. So like what we can do is internally have a great culture that supports each other, not just with, financially, but emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
I love that.
that's why I'll say like, I think that's what differentiates our firm is one of our core values is empathy. I believe that I'm a highly empathetic type of person, and that's why I'm not in the initial hiring committee. Because when people
You'll say
come to me, I'll
yes
say,
too
"Oh,
fast.
yeah," I'll say yes too fast. I'll say, "Yeah, I'll give you a chance." You're struggling. Yeah, come on board. So that's why we have a 3-step hiring process that we utilize, and I'm on the 3rd step. So I don't get involved in the first 2 step because most of the time I'll just say, "Yeah, come on board, come on, join us." So someone else needs to do that role. And so, but in terms of going back to the business aspect, I think empathy is what differentiates us. When people already don't like lawyers, people already don't like talking to lawyers. And as I know, one thing I saw a YouTube comment one time saying that the most 3 hated professions were
Yeah.
used car salesman, lawyer, and politician. And I'm 2 out of 3. And
Yeah.
I'm going to announce I have no intention ever to be a politician. I don't want to be a politician.
You
So
never
that's
know. Things
safe for
change,
everyone to
Jimmy.
know. No, no, never a politician. I'll stay out of politics. All I care about is my business. So that's basically what was I saying? Oh, going back to the empathy side, people already don't like talking to lawyers. They're going through a time of their life where they're at the low. They're going through legal issues, legal problems that they can't solve themselves. So early on, I've instructed our intake that while we need to be efficient, we at least kind of give them at least 5 minutes, 10 minutes to share their story of why they're calling us. Let them
Mm-hmm.
share and talk through what they're going through and kind of at least express sorry you're going through this. Not just say, okay, what happened? Where did this happen? Are you do you have kids? Do you not have kids? Or like what are the assets? If someone's calling about divorce, so we always want to come across as having empathy to a fellow human being that
Mm-hmm.
you've decided to place your trust in us by calling us first. So we got to be thankful that they called us, and we got to understand what they're going through and not just see them as dollar signs. At the end of the day, yes, I'm running a business. We do need money to keep this operation going, but we want to come across that we are different than other law firms that you'll call. We will take the time to listen to you. If we can't help you, we'll at least try to point you in the right direction.
Yeah, and again, I think we keep touching on it a little bit, but I think that human element, that the connection with people, the empathy that we have for one another, I think that's what we need to purposefully not lose with AI. In the generation of AI, as everything gets taken over, but by computers and robots, we are still going to need that connection with each other. And I think it does make a difference, right? Like in the profession of law, you said it yourself. Nobody wants to have to call a lawyer. If you're calling an attorney, it's because you probably have a problem, not because you're celebrating something. That happens too, but it's usually a problem,
rarely.
right?
Yeah, it's usually a problem. It's like, oh, I gotta handle this, or yeah. So it's probably 99.99% of the time, people call us as they have a problem. They never
Right.
call us when they're happy. Well, they only call us when they're happy, like after they become a client and we resolve their case, and they're like calling us to say thank you or writing us thank you cards. But yeah,
Mhm.
that rarely happens. Or I think when
Yeah.
they just call up a law firm and say, hey, I want to celebrate this, and that's why I'm calling a law firm.
Yeah. The first call is always distressed. But
Yep.
after that, I'm sure you guys are great at helping them.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, thank you, Jimmy. I think this has been great. I've certainly learned a lot from you and your story, and I appreciate your sentiment of why not, right? Like why not? You had this fear of becoming an attorney. You had a fear around your first hire, your first paralegal, and all these other things, which is normal and healthy. But I love that you're able to break through that, and so I appreciate you sharing all of that here. If people do want to reach out to you and get connected, how can they find you?
Yeah, they can find me on LinkedIn if they type in Jimmy Lai. I believe there's a lot of Jimmy Lais. But maybe in the podcast there might be like a link to my
Yeah,
LinkedIn that people can just reach out to me on LinkedIn, send me a connection request. Feel free to DM me. I'll try my best to always respond to the DMs, even those soliciting DMs. I'll respond yes or no at least, and then feel free to just connect with me on LinkedIn.
perfect. Well, yeah, I'll have a link to your profile on LinkedIn in the description here.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt.
Hey, thank you, Jimmy Lai.